All right, hey students, this is Ms. Medina, and I'm going to give you a lesson on parallel and perpendicular lines. So please make sure that you are taking notes. Okay. All right, let me start by making some sketches so that I can explain them to you. Okay, so these lines right here that I sketched are horizontal lines, and they are also parallel. The lines here that I drew going up and down are vertical lines, and they are also parallel. Okay, and remember, vertical is just up and down. Parallel, you need two lines so that you can compare them. These are what we can call slanted or sloped lines, and they can also be parallel. Okay, so which lines can be perpendicular? Let's see, two horizontal lines can never be perpendicular, so horizontal lines will always be parallel. So two horizontal lines will always be parallel. Two vertical lines will always be parallel, but two sloped lines won't always be parallel. So for example, we can have this sloped line and this sloped line. See, both of them have a sloped, but they are perpendicular. So sloped lines can be parallel, they can also be perpendicular, and in fact, they can also just be plain old intersecting lines. So they're sloped, but they are just intersecting. They are not making a 90-degree angle. Okay, so these are intersecting lines, but they're specifically making a 90-degree angle. So two horizontal lines will always be parallel. Two vertical lines will always be parallel, but sloped lines can be parallel, can be perpendicular, or can be intersecting. Clear? There's a special case here. And that special case is when you have one horizontal and one vertical. And it all depends on how you name your axes and stuff. Just the traditional way, if you have one vertical and one horizontal, then yes, they will be perpendicular. All right, so this is the first part that you need to understand. Two horizontals are parallel, two verticals are parallel. Um, Sloped lines can be parallel, perpendicular, or just intersecting. And there's a special case between the horizontals and the verticals. If you have one of each, then they're perpendicular. Okay. Here's the next thing. Equation. The equation for a horizontal line is y equals a number, or in it's specifically the y value. Clear? The equation for a vertical line is x equals a number, and in particular, the y value at the point. The y value at intersection point. I really need to move. You guys can't see it, but this is in my way over here. Okay. All right, let's see if we can make sure that all right, so this one would be the x value at intersection point. Let's go with green. Okay, so I know it's really hard to think of it as y equals 5 as being an equation, but y equals 5 is an equation, or y equals 0. Vertical, x equals -3 is an equation, x equals 4 is an equation. So two equations with x's would be parallel. Two equations with y would be parallel. Now for sloped lines, it's y equals mx plus b and y equals mx plus b. In order for them to be parallel, the slopes have to be equal. I hope you're writing this down as we're going along. So this and this have to be equal, okay? In order for, once again, these are sloped lines. So this is y equals mx plus b, and this one is also y equals mx plus b. There's supposed to be an equal sign right there. Well, what do we know about the slopes here? Is that this slope and this slope are related, but not the way that you think, okay? Let me put the color. The relationship between them is this. You're going to take -1, and then you're going to divide by the first slope, or at least the one that you know, and that's going to give you the perpendicular slope. -1 divided by one of the slopes gives you the perpendicular slope. So that's kind of like the main relationships that you need to know. We're going to work on horizontal and parallel first. All right, so I'm going to give you a slope, and you're going to give me the slope that is parallel and the slope that is perpendicular. And I'll do a few examples with you. So for example, if I tell you that the slope is 3, then the parallel slope would be 3. It has to be exactly the same. But for the perpendicular slope, you need to do -1 divided by 3. And when I put that on the calculator, I just get that the slope is -1 over 3. See, pretty easy. Or yes, change the sign and flip the number, okay? But if you're having trouble remembering, this will always work as well. So let's say that I give you a slope of -4. Well, right, would be -4 because they have to be the same if they're parallel. But if you want the perpendicular slope, then you have to do -1 divided by -4, which ends up giving you a +1/4, which for those of you that know, it would be the opposite sign and it would be the number flipped. But you see how it works all the time. Let's say that I give you a slope of 3 over 2. Well, if I ask you for the parallel slope, they have to be the same. So 3 over 2. But if I want the perpendicular slope, then I need to do -1 divided by 3 over 2. And yes, this is when a Casio comes in very handy. Are we clear? Not my fault that you don't have a Casio. -2 over 3 is what the calculator is going to give you. If I give you a slope of -6 over 7, the parallel slope would be -6 over 7, exactly the same. But if I want the perpendicular slope, I have to do -1 divided by -6 over 7, which would give me +7 over 6, the calculator, okay? Positive, I don't want you to think that there's a negative sign, +7 over 6. Let's say that I give you a slope of 0.25. Well, the the parallel slope would be 0.25 as well, but the perpendicular slope would be -1 divided by 0.25. And when I put that in the calculator, I get a -4. Well, yeah, you see that? Pretty good, right? Let's do an exercise. I'm going to give you that the slope is 7 over 3. And now my question to you is, what is the parallel slope? All right, now that you've wrote that down, what is the perpendicular slope? All right, question number 2. I give you a slope of -7. I want you to tell me what is the parallel slope. Okay, good. And I hope that you answered that one correctly. Now, what is the perpendicular slope? All right, so now open-ended questions. If I give you a slope of 0.75, what is the parallel slope? All right, and the next question, what is the perpendicular slope? All right, so I hope that you got those right, and we'll find out when I grade them, okay?